I want to tell you something that I've never quite said on camera this directly before. At my lowest point, I've had a few. I came back from Europe and I was there for 5 weeks. And then I jumped on the scales. 110 kilos. I should be like 86, 87. And I looked in the mirror, I saw this version of myself. I even remember looking back at my phone, looking at photos, thinking, what the fuck? This fat dude, no spark, no energy, just flat. Even the look in the face of my eyes. My relationship ended straight away, and she watched me, disappear for months, and she wasn't wrong. That same week, by fate, I was doing this study with a PhD guy, and the certification module was on burnout, and then it just hit me. For the last 6 years, that's what I've been dealing with. Not one, but 6 years of it consistently showing up at different levels, and it completely affected my life. I had learnt just to manage and patch up circumstances and have coping mechanisms and hope it would fix itself, but it didn't. I'd been the guy running a one-man chiropractic practice back then, 85% profit doing like 4 people's work, seeing 200 clients a week, completely dependent on stimulants, having to rely on heavy alcohol use to get fucking smashed on weekends, couldn't emotionally process anything. Lost the ability to smile, have fun, want to catch up with people. I'd see people across the road I know, can't be bothered talking to them. I feel like a robot. I even had deep anxiety about the business growing because I knew that's what we want, but I knew as the business grew, it required more of me and there was nothing left to give. I was trapped with the golden handcuffs and I just thought I cannot keep going. I just had to keep hanging on. But now I run a multi-million-dollar business where I'm off the tools and just involved at management level. I travel, I coach, I build content. I do the things that I want to do. I still want to keep building the business. And I help founders exactly where you are, get to where I am. And not because I've got this hack or morning routine or any of that sort of bullshit. It's I had to go through a complete system rebuild from the body up. And then I created that system based on everything I've learned. And it's called Unchained. And in this video, I'm going to go and walk through every single step of it with you. And here's exactly what you're going to be getting. The complete 6-phase map that I use to rebuild myself and other founders as well. I had to test on myself first to make sure it works. We're focused on the body first, then the identity, then the emotional reconnection, and then purpose alignment. Every phase broken down, what it involves, what I went through in each one, and what you actually walk away with. Not theory, not bullshit, but real tangible system for real recovery that's going to have sustained transformation. Stay to the end because the last section is the section that most people mess up. I'm going to give you a daily practice. It's like a 15-minute routine that you can keep that whole system together. So at least when we make that shift with the initial work, we want to be able to maintain it and not have it fall apart in 3, 4, 6 months' time. This is what separates permanent change from just having a good week. Do not, please skip the last part. Before I give you the system, I need to show you why conventional approaches to burnout recovery just do not work for founders. And most people try one of 3 things. These are the 3 things that don't work. Number 1 is circumstance management. That is when I get to insert, when I change job, when my kids get older, once I get on holiday, after the long weekend, once I get the new hire, once the wedding's finished, whatever it is, it's thinking that you're going to change the situation and then the burnout's going to get fixed. Remember, burnout is an identity misalignment. So the burnout will just follow them wherever they are. The pressure valve may come off a little bit, but the burnout will just come back. It always follows because the source is internal. Number 2, mindset first approach. Burnout comes from an identity problem. It's an identity misalignment, which can be that's a form of mindset. So where people can go wrong is they go, oh look, change the mindset first, then work on the other stuff. But what we need to do is always focus on body first. So that's where people do things like, journaling, affirmations, men's work, therapy, gratitude practices. All these things can be, give and take can be good. But the thing is, then none of it sticks when your nervous system is dysregulated. You cannot rewire your identity when your body's in fight or flight mode. So always the body layer first. And number 3 is surface level wellness. And I'd put little things like hacks That's all people's little morning routines, just sleep trackers, biohacking, ice baths, saunas, meditation apps. Same thing. These things on their own can be beneficial, but they're not going to actually treat what's going on. They're treating symptoms whilst the root cause, which as I said, is an identity misalignment, keeps compounding. I've tried all three multiple times, so I know firsthand why they all go wrong, and I've seen it with other founders as well. And I ended up coming back to the same place. So here's what I eventually understood. Burnout isn't just a rest problem, it's not just a recovery problem, it's not a time management problem. It's not even just a stress problem. Burnout is an identity problem, and you cannot think your way out of an identity problem when your body is in fight or flight or threat mode. You don't have to feel like you're in a threat to be in threat mode. It's your nervous system will perceive that. And that's why the sequence always matters, and that's why Unchained works. So here it is, I'm gonna run you through my full Unchained system, the full framework. So everything I used is everything I've learnt to apply to myself, and everything I now run all my coaching founders through. So we'll start off with the pillars. We've got the 4 pillars. We've got pillar 1 is the body. Then we move on to pillar 2, which is the mind layer. Number 3 is the heart. And the final layer, pillar 4, is the spirit, which is more meaning, values, purpose, that sort of stuff. So in terms of the general pillars that we work through, but there's 6 phases, and it's the 6 R's. So the 6 R's for each phase. So phase 1 is about regulate. So that's where we're really addressing the body layer, this is the system I take people through. So this is like nervous system first approach, non-negotiable. Number 2 is what we go through is recognize. Recognize, which is the mind, which is part of the mind layer. So that's like being able to see the mask, where you're performing, persona self versus authentic self, and also being able to name the mountain. When I mean the mountain, I mean, what mountain are you trying to climb? What are you trying to achieve? And where does that come from? It's going through all that. And number 3 is going through rewrite. So rewrite is also part of the mind layer. That's like meeting your saboteur. That's the thing that causes you to self-sabotage and understanding the deal and work around the narrative. Then number 4 is reconstruct, which is also part of the mind layer. That'll be week 4, which is about looking at your old narratives, collapsing the old narratives and dissolving them, and then being able to build new ones. So we need to dissolve the old belief system before we can create new ones. Otherwise, they will just carry on through the next phase. The next one is reconnect. So this is where we then start to move on to the heart layer. With the heart layer, that's where you start to feel again. You stop numbing and then start to get more present in terms of what you feel, more present with other people. The final layer is realign. That's working through the spirit layer. What that is, understanding your values, getting even clearer on your mountain, which is the path that you want to go down, and coming up with your declaration. So basically, as we work each week, I generally work people in the 6-week program spend a week on each of these. So this is the map. Every piece needs to happen, and it needs to happen in this order, and that's non-negotiable. So why is the sequence non-negotiable? Because each phase creates a biological and psychological conditions that make the next phase possible. So you can't do the identity work in phase 2 or week 2 when your nervous system is dysregulated. So your prefrontal cortex, which operates all your decision making, that is, you're not thinking clearly and you're just in reactive state. So that's where we make poor decisions. So you cannot do the emotional work, which is week 5, phase 5. You haven't yet dismantled the identity that taught you that emotions are a liability, which is pretty much most driven founders. That's what we learn. Being vulnerable is not okay, and fuck your emotions. So we need to work through that narrative, and the sequence is in the system. Let me walk through each phase and what involves what I went through and what you can walk away with. All right, so we're gonna start in the first layer, which is regulate. That's week 1. That's the body layer. It's getting your nervous system out of that chronic fight or flight stress system. It's reducing the allostatic load. Remember, that's accumulation chronic stress on the nervous system, and building that foundational physiological state so that everything else can be solid on the back end of that. So when I started this work, I couldn't sit still for 3 minutes. And my Bolt score was under 12. And my sleep was very, very hit and miss. I was hooked on the caffeine. I was having minimum 3 coffees a day and having alcohol, and just using willpower to fill in the gaps in between. And the first thing I had to do was just stop adding to the load and start emptying the bucket. So even when I developed better habits, I was under the misconception, because as founders, we love growth, intensity. We're very much all or nothing. We're very much ADHD. We love like achieving and doing these things. So what we do is we naturally have a tendency to throw more onto our plate and achieve things and do more. Like, whereas what we need to do when we're dealing with a regulated level and working with the bodies, we need to start stripping things back and start taking things off of our plate and reducing intensity. So what I ended up getting was, better sleep, real energy that didn't require being completely reliant on stimulants, and a nervous system that felt grounded and felt safe, and others could feel that as well. And a measurable baseline to actually build from. In phase one, just breaking down, the first layer is sleep. This is the cornerstone. This is the non-negotiable pillar one. You're making multi-million-dollar decisions on broken sleep. This is the thing you just gotta fucking stop and fix. Everyone has got time. If you're sleeping 5 hours, try and get close to the 7. If you're sleeping 6, try and get close to 8. It's more about what we're doing when we're actually awake. If you truly audit the amount of time we spend wasting time, you could easily put that towards sleep. Sleep is gonna get the biggest ROI out of anything. The next thing is breath work. So there's some things that you can do, very simple, is things like, we went through the BOLT score, which is your carbon dioxide tolerance test, which relates to how well you can deal with stress. We did that in a previous video. So what you can do to help with that is that box breathing. Box breathing is that breathing in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, breathing out for 4 seconds, and hold for 4 seconds. So it's in, hold, out, hold, and that's a cycle. So even just doing 3 minutes worth in the morning and 3 minutes worth in the evening, and even just focus on nasal breathing, because nasal breathing activates the parasympathetic, or the rest and relaxation or safety system. Mouth breathing, which is how we normally breathe, activates the sympathetic threat mode. So even just in general, getting used to breathing through your nose and slow nasal breathing in, nasal breathing out is going to start to help with your nervous system. So your BOLT score will actually improve within 6 weeks of doing box breathing twice a day for 3 minutes twice a day. That will start to improve. You'll build carbon dioxide tolerance and stress resilience. Number 3 is the intensity audit. This is a big one. A lot of us founders, we focus on sleep. Some people do some breath work. Where we fall apart is the intensity audit. That's where, what do we need to automate, eliminate, and delegate? You're not going to optimize your way out of this. You have to subtract your way out of it. So this is the unnecessary routines. This is in terms of what can you delegate? What can you start to flick off to a team member or pay someone else to do that can, someone else that earns a lower per hour rate, basically, than what you do, and just sort of figuring that out, and then being able to pay someone else to do different tasks that you don't want to do. Giving things to your team members, training people. If they can get to 80% of the level you can do, they should be doing it, not yourself. And really being able to identify your zone of genius. What can you automate? There's AI now. There's so many ways that you can start to automate systems and delegate, or what do you just need to eliminate? That sometimes it's a matter of things have just got to go, or they might just have to go for a season. And that could be for a month, that could be for 6 months, whatever it is. It's just about seeing what is the 80-20 principle? What's the 20% of things that you do that move 80% of the needle in your life? Put them in, schedule them in, and what's the things that give you the most fulfillment, and schedule them in. Everything else, strip it out, run this. You can also even do an audit of your week for 14 days, every 15-minute block. Just do it for 2 weeks straight. Every 15 minutes, you're noting down, or you're writing, or you're voice messaging what you actually did in that 15-minute block. And then after the 2 weeks, you can actually you can even do it in 1 week. You can actually start to audit where your time is and where you're wasting time, what's going to move the needle, and this can help with this process as well. The next thing is movement. Walking, not punishment. This isn't doing like CrossFit or assault bike or doing like boxing or Muay Thai. It's just movement, not punishing. Low intensity. Part of the thing what we want to do in the regulate phase is minimize, not just stop doing things, but just like minimize intensity particularly. So your body needs to move without being another performance or another obligation. And number 5 is outcome. Your nervous system seems settled enough to start to begin actually seeing things for what they are, clearly and move on to the next phase. So this is the phase most founders fuck up, and they resist this phase. They want to jump in and do the identity work. They want to do the strategy. They want to work on their purpose. They want to do values. They want to do everything that's not this layer. And they start doing it, but they progress too quickly. And I get that impulse. I did it for years and years until I actually understood how long it takes and how important the order is. Because the other things feel more significant. And this seems easy, and it sort of is, but the hard thing is having the discipline to give it its time. But this phase is not optional. If this isn't done properly, nothing that comes after it sticks. And I've spent 6 weeks just here for the first time. When I first started this, I was 6 weeks just in this phase of regulation. And for the first time in years, I'd actually then start to not need stimulants, wake up in the morning feeling fresh, and actually be more grounded and be more present and having that overall benefit. So once the nervous system settled down, we got that first layer, the physiological layer, then we move into the mind work. And there's 3 phases for the mind work. So this is where the real identity activation happens. So this layer is the recognized layer. Think of it as the performed self. This is the identifying the gap between who you've been performing for pretty much your whole life and who you actually are, and audit the mountain that you've been climbing. Whatever you've been going for and whatever path you've gone after, that's the mountain. And being able to audit whether that's actually your mountain that you've chosen or whether you've been heavily influenced by other people. So a bit about my story, like I've been performing a version of myself for so long, I've completely forgotten it was a performance. Why is that? Because we get rewarded. The performed self comes from a place of we get love, when we're younger, we get love from our parents for being that version, but also as we get older, we keep getting rewarded and we keep identifying ourselves with that version of ourselves. For me, it was being Dr. Ryan, the chiro, the athlete, the founder. I'd fused my identity with those titles. If you actually start stripping them away, there wasn't too much left. And that was pretty terrifying to sit with in terms of my own self-worth and my own values. So what you get when you actually work through this sort of stuff is you get clarity on who you've been versus who you actually are. And you can start to unpack where things start to fall apart when you get understanding of who you've been and where the performed self's led you. And you start to be able to come up with names for your mask. The beginning of seeing which mountain you've been climbing and whether this is actually your mountain that you're actually meant to go after. In the recognize phase, the first element is the performed self. This is the mask that we wear, or what we want people to think we are, the achievements, the metrics, all the things we've done. That's like what we want people to say about us. The mask that got us here now, and it's definitely served a purpose, but now it's starting to suffocate us. It was adaptive once, but now it's forming a prison for us. So the next thing you think about is, who are you without the titles, without the accolades, without being the boss, without the money, without the car, the house, the watches? What's left? And if you can't answer that instantly, that's the work. Number 3 is the wrong mountain. The 2 most important things in life, one is to know what to go after, and the next part is actually being able to go after it. The most dangerous thing you can do is be fucking so good and capable that you're really good at going after the wrong thing. And then you pursue that for an incredible amount of time and you get to that destination and you look back and you think, how the fuck did I get here? This is not how I was meant to feel. That was a sign that it wasn't your mountain. Who influenced you? Who handled you? Was it society? Was it your father? Was it your industry? Was it your mates? Was it your peers? It's probably a combination of both. And the key question with everything is to go, what would you build if no one was watching? What would you build if it wasn't about revenue? It wasn't about status, it wasn't about accolades, it wasn't about getting respect. What would you build if no one was watching? Think about that and they'll give you some information about the mountain that you should chase. The most confronting moment for this phase with most founders I work with is they realize they've been killing themselves to climb a mountain that wasn't theirs. It's pretty confronting. And what's even more confronting is probably realizing that for most founders, the mountain they're going after is just trying to seek their dad's approval. And at what point are you going to get his approval or society's approval? You're never going to get it. And if you keep building from that place, but if you keep building from that place unconsciously, you're always just going to be chasing the wrong mountain and you're always going to have resentment and there's going to be pain and no fulfillment. It was someone else's definition of success and you absorbed it so early that it was impacted into your brain and into your psyche so early that you actually thought it was your own idea. All right, so now we move on to phase 3, which is rewrite. So there's 3 different elements we'll go through. There's number 1, which is the trickster. So trickster is the part of you that has a lot of self-doubt, that self-destructs, that procrastinates, that avoids, that tells you you can't do it, tells you to play small. It's not a broken part of you, it's just a scared part of you. It's a protective mechanism. So it's trying to teach you that, like, to be small and to play safe, that's the right thing to do. Number 2 is the 3 a.m. spiral. When you feel every single gap with doing shit, whether it's work, it's stimulation, it's learning, it's like training, it's whatever it is, like podcast work, content, all the unprocessed stuff that shows up at 3 a.m. It's not insomnia, it's a cue. And pretty much what's the deal? What's the deal with all of this? So at some point in your childhood, you made a deal with yourself that if I perform, achieve, provide, I'll be safe, loved, enough. That deal is still running and it's costing you everything. Because at what point do you have your own approval that you love yourself or that you are enough? At what point does that happen? Because there is no point. If you do not feel intrinsically that you are enough, and this is all stuff that's running unconsciously, there's no amount of performing, achieving, and providing that's going to actually be able to deal with that. The reality is the opposite. The more you achieve, provide, and perform, this actually just adds gasoline to it and it makes you even more insecure. They're the 3 aspects of the rewrite. So now we move on to phase 4, which is reconstruct. This is still part of the mind layer. So this is about collapsing the old narrative, examine the inherited beliefs that you got from your family, mum, dad, society, your coaches, whoever it was, especially the father wound and the parental operating system. It's about building a new narrative that is chosen, not inherited. So this one broke me up. I realized that I was running on my father's operating system. Sacrifice, grind, suppression, guilt, provide, never stop, just don't rest, just keep going. That model made sense in his context. In mine, it was completely killing me. And the grief of that was realizing that what I thought was my actual identity was just inherited programming. And that grief was important. And I had to feel it before I could actually move through it. So once I actually started to work through this, what you get when you work through the reconstruct layer is a written new narrative, your chosen story, not the one you inherited. Getting clarity on which beliefs are actually yours, not the ones that were planted in your brain. And have the capacity to make decisions from that identity of alignment rather than from fear. So when we're breaking down the reconstruct layer, there's 3 components. Component 1 is collapsing the narrative. So that's the story that you've been living by, needs that need to be examined. Your inherited beliefs from your father, your family, your industry. Success requires sacrifice, rest is weakness, I'll rest when. And the thing is, there's elements of this that are very true, but the thing is they don't serve us when they become part of identity. A big part as well, pretty much for any founder, is examining dad's playbook. In most high-performing founders, they're running on their father's operating system. Sacrifice, grind, suppress, provide, no fulfillment, just give, don't be present, just keep working, providing, and that's, never stop, and that's good enough. You don't deserve to be doing the things that you want to do. It's selfish to be wanting to travel. It's selfish to want to change careers and do what you want to do. That's that operating system. And that model worked back then. In 2026, it's a different engine underneath chronic burnout. And finally, there's a new narrative. And that's not a mantra, it's not an affirmation, it's a chosen identity statement. So this is saying that's written, spoke, lived, who you choose to be moving forward. By the end of the mind phase, most founders feel something that they have not felt in years, and that's clarity. And it's not about business, it's about themselves. And a big part of what I do with founders isn't about fixing their business, it's about fixing the founder. And by fixing the founder, we fix the business and fix their life. And that changes every decision that follows. So now we move on to the heart layer, which is phase 5, the reconnect. We've moved on for the mind. So this is about feeling again, stopping numbing, building emotional vocabulary. That's actually being able to describe what's going on within you and reconnecting with yourself and people who actually matter. So this is where presence replaces performance. I spent a long time suppressing everything that I literally couldn't identify what I was feeling at any given moment. For years and years, my emotional My vocabulary was just either pissed off, saying it's funny, you're horny, you're happy. It's just very basic, primitive. I was feeling at any given moment, could you be happy? Yeah. Sad? That wouldn't even come up. Anxious? That didn't even come up. These things would have been inside me, I would have even recognized it, or even depressed. I didn't know. I would just describe everything as fine, bit flat, pretty good, learning to feel again, and to name what I was feeling felt foreign and felt very uncomfortable. It felt, to be honest, it felt like pussy talk. Like it felt like it was very soft, like this is bullshit that you don't need to do. But that was also a protective strategy. And a lot of men, particularly very smart founders, live in their head and are afraid of connecting with themselves. And then one day I laughed, properly laughed, like within my body, and I realized they'd not done that for probably a couple of years. That was what burnout did to me, was I just disconnected and numbed out so deeply. And what you get when you actually start to reconnect in the heart layer is you get emotional vocabulary, but more importantly, that's not the thing. It's about the ability to stay present, like actually present, and not just be all over the place or logical or in your head and problem-solving mode. But that's so important in terms of like with your family, with your partner, with your friends, with your team as well. Because as a leader, if you can't be present, you're not safe as a leader. You're not safe to lead a family. You're not someone that people particularly enjoy spending time around because they're just not there. So self-compassion is the thing that I had to learn, and that founders we have to learn. And self-compassion is not weakness. Connection is real and it's not performed. So when we talk about this layer, the reconnect layer, there's building emotional vocabulary. That's like, you cannot process what you cannot name. Most founders have two emotional settings. They're either fine, or they're furious, or they're triggered, or pissed off. This builds it's about trying to build out the range. And this is so that we can actually start to, label what's actually going on. The next thing is about numbing and taking stock, doing inventory around numbing. That is being honest about, what are you using so that you don't have to feel what you're avoiding? Normally what will happen is when you start slowing down or you're resting and you're not doing things, the thing that you're avoiding will start coming up. And that's where we start going to numbing devices. That's the work, the alcohol, the scrolling, doing, keeping busy, watching porn, doing training, eating food, having stimulants, smoking some weed, whatever it is, that's when that comes up. And it's important to realize that numbing is not a weakness. Numbing is what happens when we don't feel safe and we just want to avoid what comes up. This phase is about trying to rebuilding that feeling of safety again and being comfortable with whatever comes up. The third part, this is really important, is presence, being present. So this is something that's very much underrated. And as founders, we're very chaotic, we're very all over the place. We handle chaos and uncertainty, and freaking most entrepreneurs are all ADHD and we're all over the place. And that's like our superpower in a way. But the cost is we're generally not present. We're not grounded, we're not present. And when you're dealing with partners, staff, team, business partners, friends, if you're not present, you're not there. And it really affects you on a relationships level. And that's something when people can be really present and they're present with you, you feel seen, you feel heard, and there's improves connection. So that's going to show up in terms of your definitely relationships, your quality of your business will get better, but also your health. So that's like being in the room, not just physically there, but mentally there as well. So your kids will notice this, before you do. This is about reconnecting with them as well, reconnecting your partner, reconnecting with your kids, and actually being there and being present. So this is the phase that I know I personally resisted the most, and most founders find it the hardest. It's not about the mind and logic and systems and things like that. It's about doing the thing that we've been avoiding. Sometimes it's hard because we don't know how to do it. And because we've been conditioned to believe that, feelings is weakness, vulnerability is weakness, and we probably could have been punished for that when we were younger, no doubt. And it's that stoicism is strength. That if we keep everything inside and just keep performing, then things will be right. But here's the truth. Emotional suppression is not strength. It's just delaying the breakdown. The bill always comes. It's actually being more of a coward, not actually facing this stuff. And when you actually begin to start feeling again, like really feeling, the capacity of a joy comes back. That's why this is so important, because people get stuck in that mechanical operating, high performer, know what to do, smart, intelligent, capable. But then there's the human side. That's feeling, connecting, being vulnerable, laughter, fulfillment, joy. Why do we do what we do? We don't just do things to achieve and hit metric and that sort of stuff. We want to feel joy. We want to feel connect with people. We want to do meaningful work. We want to feel fulfilled. If we don't actually learn to connect with ourselves, we can't actually access that sort of thing. It's really about getting that capacity back, which is why that you've really built the business in the first place. And we move on to the final layer, the spiritual layer, which is phase 6, which is realign. So this is about realigning with the actual values, about finding your mountain, that finding your thing that you're going after, and not the one that society handed you, not the one that your dad told you, actually about designing your own legacy and to write and speak the Unchained declaration. So there's this phase where I actually stopped asking, how do I grow the business faster? So what kind of man do I want to be? What's the identity I want to step into? The mountain I'd been climbing was real and I had definitely built something genuine. When I got to the top of that mountain, it just did not feel like how I expected it to feel. There was a lot of meaningful stuff there, but they were just miscalculated along the way in terms of the journey. This phase was about understanding that external success and achievements, even though they're great, they're a vehicle, they're not a destination. And that redirecting towards something that was actually mine and meaningful and actually meant something to me was more important. And that changes as you get older as well. So what you get when you actually work through this layer, you start to excavate like your core personal values, and they're going to blend into your business values as well. And not aspirational posters on a wall, not a clear picture. You're not just like coming up with aspirational values and things that you would like to be and things that you want people to see, but actually being able to understand your values that are going to dictate every decision that you make in life. It's about getting a clear picture of your mountain, a legacy question that gives every decision a filter. The Unchained declaration is a statement of who you are choosing to be, read aloud, witnessed by others. When we go through this layer, we go through your values. Your values, not the values that you think you should have or that you want other people to, that look nice, but you know, the values that when you live them, you feel the most aligned, you feel the most alive. Think of the things when you look at your values is, think, where do you spend your money? Where do you spend your time? Often a lot of values come from a perceived void from your childhood as well. For example, if someone had a lot of control when they were younger and they were controlled a lot, what are they going to value when they're older? Often freedom. People who might not been, like for myself, I wasn't great at learning when I was younger. I was a good athlete, so I got love through achievement. But then as I got older, then I sort of went into learning, and learning is one of my core values now as well. So many different things come from, like even with one of my other values is like creativity. So I was very much brought up in a very controlled upbringing where you weren't allowed to really express yourself in that capacity. So then that was a vehicle. It's really about the gap between the values lived and the values stated is where the burnout is. The next thing is your mountain. This is the deathbed test. At the end, you're 85, you're 90 years old, on your deathbed. What matters? Not what impressed, not what earned the most, not how much you exited for, what actually matters. And then finally is your Unchained declaration. This is written, spoken, witnessed. Who I was, what I discovered, who I'm choosing to be. What am I committed to? How am I living from now on? This is not homework, this is your compass. The separation season, and this is a concept that I use during this phase, is the period from when you start to separate from the old identity and step into the new one. It feels uncomfortable. There's pressure there. It looks different from the outside. Some people will not understand it. Some people will shame you, some people will change you and try and pull you back to old identity. But you know it's right because it'll feel more like yourself than you have in years.
Here's the thing most people miss about this kind of work. It's not a 6-week fix. The Unchained program is 6 weeks, but this is just to give you the foundation and he can use this practice for life. Because without a daily anchor, it's just going to be another program that you do, someone pays for, and then it just drifts to the wayside. There's no integration. So your old scripts end up coming back. The performed self just gets in the driving seat again. Not because you're weak, but because the neural pathways with the old identity, they're still so strong that that's where everything's going to start to pull back towards. So what we're going to do is we're going to build out this routine. So this is a 15 to 20 minute daily routine that we're going to do. It's the Unchained daily practice. Starting with the body layer. What it's going to be is 3 minutes. So what's that going to look like? Keeping it super simple. Box breathe. Box breathing, as we said, we know box breathing, you use breathing in for 4, hold 4, out 4, hold 4. Doing that for 3 minutes, once in the AM and once in the evening in the PM. Ideally just before you go to bed. That's it for that. The next layer is the mind layer. This is only for 2 minutes. This is that new narrative read out loud. Your chosen identity, not a mantra, but the actual declaration. The heart layer. So what this is naming one emotion that you can actually feel. Even a good idea is to just close your eyes and even just do a 30-second body scan. Just closing your eyes, a be present, 30-second body scan, and just being able to name anything, whether it's tightness, whether there's emotions that come up, anything like that, they can actually start to name, start to label, and set one intention for presence. Then what we do is we move on to the spirit layer, which is 1 minute. So basically, the spirit layer is values checking. Am I aligned today? And making at least one decision that you're going to make from that alignment. Other things that are good to do, you throw daily walk, ideally 20 minutes as a minimum, and with no phones, no music, just out in nature. So no podcasts, no learning, just taking things in, not actually processing it. The other thing is the BOLT score that we use, that BOLT score that we do that once a week. And when we do the BOLT score, look to do it weekly and at the same time. Look consistency. Good thing to do if you do it, say, every Monday. It might be a Monday morning at 7 a.m. Or if it's mornings are better because it's before the day, so it starts to take over. So having that consistency and using that as one of your check-ins in terms of how your nervous system is functioning. And then the BAT24, what we do is we do that every 90 days. There's no point doing that once a week or even once a month. You just want to do that 90 days as general check-in. Everything except the walk. This process probably takes about 15 minutes. Sure, there's things you can add to it that you can tweak to it if you have goals that you're working on and looking at your goals daily. But this is the system I use and I recommend. So the men that stay unchained are the ones who build this system. They build the body behind the arts. And it's very intentionally, especially with this, we don't want it being too long. So if it's too long, too complicated, it gets in the way of the work that we need to do. And men who drift back are the ones who relied on the initial breakthrough, and they always rely on the ups, and they can't maintain that progression, and they can't integrate systems like this to actually maintain the benefit of a course like this. The breakthrough is not the destination. Things will go up. People get breakthroughs. What we don't want to do is just go back to baseline, or even optimal happens is below. And then the danger of that is that then people will be like, our palms will be like, I've heard of that. I've tried, but that shit doesn't work. They haven't done it properly. It's about when you get that breakthrough, if then it's that put these things into place that then you can start to stabilize and elevate your identity and elevate the way that you operate. Remember, the breakthrough is not the destination, it's the practice.
I rebuilt my whole life using this system, not because I had it all figured out. We were always trying to figure life out. But I finally stopped trying to think my way logically out of a problem that started in my body. The version of me that's pretty much here now is the one who runs a business without feeling like they're stuck in it. I can choose to do whatever I want to do within the business. And as someone who gets to travel the world, who gets to create, gets to coach, because that's the things that I enjoy doing, who gets to train, who can actually be present with their friends, their family, with the people they love. The version that was only possible because of this system that I created, and doing it more importantly in this order. What I've shared with you in this video actually resonates. If you can see yourself in any part of the story, the next step is really simple. Take the BAT23 if you've not already done that. The link's in the description, you can do that and download it. Your score will tell you pretty much what phase of Unchained is most urgent in your entry point. And if you're sitting in the orange or red, reach out. Book a burnout breakthrough call. We'll look through your results together, we'll map out where you're on the framework and work out whether Unchained is the right fit for where you're at. I only want to work with people who I know that I can help and who want that help. Secondly, if you can please subscribe if this landed. Share it with the founder who needs to hear this, because the guy who needs this the most is probably the one that's, it's the one who's never going to admit it. In the next video in this series, why your body is the control panel, the physiology of burnout, and why you cannot think your way out of a dysregulated nervous system. We'll catch you on the next one.